Oh wow, the Intimate Bliss. Wow, that's such a cool coaster. Welcome everyone to the unofficial overview for the Sorcery pack for Planet Coaster 2. This is the second DLC that Planet Coaster has received, and the first one that has actually brought new scenery. So we are going to go into this by checking out the coasters first, and then just analyzing everything else besides that. So for the time being though, this should officially release the day after this video comes out, but you guys can actually get it for $12.99 US dollars. I know it's a little bit of a price hike in terms of like previous Planet Coaster DLCs and Planet Zoo DLCs, but honestly, I think it might be worth it this time around. I really do. We'll get into it all. So there are a few new coasters, this one in particular. This is the Outamax Bike and Sidecar coaster, very much based off of Hagrid's ride. It's based off of the Intamin, get it? Outamax Intimin? That I finally understand it now. But this is a very cool little coaster. I kind of talked about this one a little bit more when it came to the initial reveal of these coasters and like this pack, because a coaster like this is something that just seems so much cooler to me. But you guys can see it is very much clearly like your typical steel coaster, and they do have the bike and sidecar attachments on there. Now the question is, are we actually able to change these guys? Okay, so we have that. I know that the coaster, like the mouse ride, there is a mouse ride that was recently de-themed. I think it was actually this one. So if we come over here and see, yep, card type. So you can have a basic one of those. So basically what I was essentially looking at is if we can de-theme these to get away from the bike aesthetic. Even if they just have like the handlebars there and nothing else, I thought that would be kind of cool and a lot more versatile. But honestly, people are going to just use this to recreate Hagrid's and do some other kind of cool stuff, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, that is pretty much it for that one. We can come right over here though. And again, I apologize. I am not a thuzy in the slightest, so I am not entirely sure which elements are which. But you can see they do have an LSM launch, and they also do have 3 different kinds of tracks. They have your basic one, which is right there. You have another one, which you can see it has those little bars in the middle. And the final one does have this spine going throughout it, which I honestly like. I like nice big chunky coasters like that. So beyond those, you also have a bunch of other elements. You have drive tires, those are always useful. Again, the LSM, but you also have the dual direction LSM motor. So basically what this means is it can either go forwards or backwards, which I think is super cool, which plays into some of the other switch tracks that we get. But we also have the LSM holding station. We have the magnetic brakes, which are pretty cool. You have trim brakes to help speed it down a little bit. Block brakes, block section, however you want to call it. But you also have your switches. You have switch bank track left, and then you also have it right again, or whatever. You have all of these, which I think is super cool. This just looks like a mess over here, and I think that is going to be so funny to see what people are able to do with that. But you have a bunch of different directions in here. I'm kind of just going through and clicking them all because there are a whole bunch of cool ones. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the Hagrid one, where it's like it goes wee, and then you go up a hill, and then it switches to this track, and then it goes backwards. You can do something kind of like Everest like that too. But yeah, you have a bunch of banked ones. You just have all these awesome little switches, which I think is super, super cool. But yeah, that's pretty much that. You have turntables, which is cool. Again, you have your spring lift. I kind of want to see this one in action. I don't think I've seen this yet. It's probably, this is going to be a mess seeing how that works. Oh yeah, it launches and it goes right there. How does that work? Oh, it literally just bounces you. That's funny. So yeah, that's a cool little piece right there. But you also have your bigger elements. You have figure of 8 helixes. You have a bunch of helixes, actually, which is going to be super helpful. I really wish that these track elements, we were able to include like the alternate styles, which are right over here. But I can already see like these menus are quite a hassle for me to traverse. that I can understand why. If you want something like that, you're gonna have to make it yourself, which is kind of what I'm doing in another park right now. But you also have your overbank turns, and that's pretty much it for your elements. You don't really get too many loops. I don't think it can loop. I don't honestly think it should loop. Actually, no, it can't loop. Can it invert? Oh, Leaf, you should have looked at this before. Whoa, who cares? Oh, so it can loop. Okay, that is pretty cool at least. So it's not actually going to loop with that one, so that's fine. But yeah, that's a bike and sidecar coaster. Really, really cool one over there. But honestly, I am a, whatever you call this, I am an Outamax Intimin Raid? No, what's it called? This is Raid. Intimin Blitz, that's the name of the coaster. I am an Intimin Blitz enthusiast now. These guys are some of the coolest cars I've ever had to work with, and I can completely understand why. You can see that we do have 3 different styles. Once again, you have the typical one with the spine. You have a double spine, which gives a really good chunky look to a coaster. But you also have this more basic one over here, which is very cool. Not only that, but you also have the basics. You have the drive tires. You have the LSM launch. You have the dual direction, kind of like how we saw before. You have an LSM holding station, magnetic brakes, trim brakes, block section. Very cool stuff right there. And you also have all of those various switch tracks, which are just some of the coolest things that we've had in Planet Coaster. Like, working with these is so fun and so rewarding. I absolutely love it. But beyond that, you also have a selection of various loops. Again, you have a whole bunch of these different ones. You already have these guys in the game, but still, it's cool to see them. You have that one right there. You have your pretzel loops, you have your Norwegian loops. Why is it called a Norwegian loop? Can someone tell me why? This is what happens when a non-thuzy plays. What the heck? Oh my god, this is like, I don't know if we have this in the game yet, but this is super cool. This is a top hat loop, and it essentially is just a cool airtime element that is worked into another loop, which that is pretty freaking cool. And it does have the nice big chunky spine, which again, I love to see that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for most of your loops. Very cool stuff in there. You can get some nice G's. I think that's what the kids say. You have a bunch of inversions, not immersions. You have a bunch of those. You have your bat wings. You have your corkscrews, which are kind of right over here. Demonic Knot. Who is making these names? All right, you have your hammerhead turn. That is always so cool to see. And you have a bunch of heartline rolls, inline, whatever, twist, whatever you want to call it, snake dives, raven turn. Those are 2 different kinds of birds there, buddy. You have your snake dives, a whole bunch of these horseshoes. You have your vertical heartline. Really, really cool stuff over here, and there are just a bunch of awesome pieces in here. Gotta love the 0G rolls. Those always feel so cool when you're on them. Have I ever been on one? I don't know. Here are the non-inverted ones, though. A whole bunch of these. You get your helixes. You have your figure of 8 helix. Very cool stuff. You have a top hat. Always so cool to see that. You have overbank turns once again. And yeah, that's pretty much it. They do have their own separate loading and offloading stations, which is always so cool. And yeah, the Intimin Blitz is finally here. We did check out Torque, which is the included blueprint for the kind of like sidecar coaster, but the Intimin Blitz or the Outamax LSM Raid, these guys have Ultraviolet, which is a super pretty, super beautiful coaster over here. And you can see it starts off with a beautiful LSM, and then it launches you through these nice little corkscrews, turns, and then it goes to a switchback over here, which is one of the new kind of big elements people have been waiting for the longest time. So essentially, you kind of build up momentum, it sends you back with an LSM, and then it sends you back forwards, so you can continue up the loop that you previously stalled at, and then you can make your way throughout all the rest of the coaster over here. Tell me, enthusiasts, does it sound like I know what I'm talking about? But yeah, this is just a super, super cool ride. Honestly, if you are not a big roller coaster guy and you just want to build parks and stuff like that, kind of like I do, you can absolutely jump into a park and just place this down, remove the theming, and it's gonna look very, very good. I apologize for all motion sickness people in here because it is a very motion intense ride. And here is the final one over here. This is a kiddie coaster. This is the Vector Child Coaster. I apologize once again. I am not entirely sure what the original makes of these are. I think Vector, this is an aerodynamics coaster, right? Does that make sense? Well, nevertheless, you can see it's a very simple coaster. It seats 2 people per car, which I think is very cool. But you kind of snake your way throughout this one. Here's a pre-made asset right over here. Again, I am a very big fan of kiddie coasters. I'm a very big fan of the ones that everyone can ride because, I don't know, it's just, it opens it up to so much more people. And yeah, that's pretty much it right there, which is very cool. In terms of assets that these guys use over here, they do have your triple track layout, which means, yep, you get these various ones. I'm trying to find the difference between this one and this one. Corporate wants me to find the difference between these, but honestly, I have no idea what they are. Okay, so that one looks like that. Oh, it's just, okay, that is a little silly, but I kind of like that. At least it gives you the option. These mid bars are just a little bit thinner than the rest, which is kind of cool. I don't know. I like the options like that. That's very cool. You have your friction wheel lift, which is very cool. You have your drive tires, you have friction brakes, you have trim brakes, and you also have a block section. Now removing all those pieces, you can see you do have your helixes once again as your elements. Non-inverted loops, which are very cool. That is just always so cool to me. I don't know. I like that. You have both the left and right version. You have overbank turns, etc., etc. Can't wait to see what people make with those. All right, but what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to delete these, and I'm going to flatten my area over here because that is going to bug me. Okay, moving on to the flat rides. These guys are actually quite cool, but honestly, I am not going to lie. The coasters actually took the cake for me with this. The flat rides are pretty cool though. So Gale Force, it's based on the concept from what I've read, or from what I watched on Geekism's video, on something that doesn't actually exist in real life, which is kind of cool. I always like to see that. There's a whole bunch of like different ride sequences that you can have. It essentially just spins these guys. So you can see right over here, I'm actually going to go over here and change that to guest facing, or actually cabin orbit. This is so much easier to look at. So it is based off of a concept of a ride. It's not actually existent in real life, but the coolest thing about this is you can see there is a motor up here, which rotates it, basically going up and down in a clockwise fashion, which is very cool. So I don't know. That's pretty much it. It spins the cabin itself, and yeah, it's a cool ride. I don't know. I think the theming of this can be really cool. I know they included like, oh, did they? Hold on, let's look it up. Okay, there are no blueprints from Frontier for these guys, which is kind of sad. But it is a pretty cool ride nonetheless. If you guys are looking for a little bit more of a large element to include in your parks, that is obviously one that you can go for. I'm trying to look and see if there are any cool little motifs that we got in this pack, but it doesn't seem like it. Yeah, you have a bunch of like the classic ones that we have from like everything else, like the Greek ones, and we have like your classic sci-fi-ish ones, or like your Hawaiian ones, but no, there's not really any new ones, which is a little bit of a shame. All right, here is the flying theater. These, okay, this is so cool. I don't know. I was so excited for this, but ironically, it's like my second favorite thing in this pack because the coasters have been like so fun to work with. But still, this is a ride that I was not expecting us to get for the longest time. But yeah, if you've seen Soarin', like if you've seen Avatar, if you've seen any of those, I think there's actually one in SeaWorld that is terrible, I've heard. So let me know which one that is. But that is basically it. You have a whole bunch of different steps in here, so you can basically have this go throughout your entire ride sequence. But listen, If you are the type of person to mess with that stuff, good on you, because that is way too complicated for me. However, there are a bunch of different kinds of little cinematic experiences that we have in here. There is Rising Over Ruins, which I think is a little bit of a Greek one, which I think is going to play in very well with like the mythological theme. So yeah, you can see it looks like oh, it pauses when you actually go over a certain speed, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, it goes through like real life footage, which I am not entirely a big fan of. I think if they actually included Planet Coaster footage in here, that would have been so much cooler. I mean, I'm not really going to look at this by the next time that I kind of open this ride, so that is perfectly fine. Like, I'm not too upset. So there's that one. There is the High Above Highlands over here, which let's actually see what this consists of. Okay, it's just mountains, which I think is pretty cool. So this is very much like a Soarin' type experience. But honestly, if you guys are looking for like a one-to-one Soarin' feeling ride, you're not really gonna get it like this because, like, I don't know, it's something you gotta experience in person, you know? But thematic-wise, this is still so cool to have in Planet Coaster. Like, I am just beyond excited to have that. I think this is actually gonna go very well with, like, you know, the Harry Potter theming that people are gonna eventually do. Because, like, oh, you can be in, like, it's the Weasleys, like, 4x4, whatever, I don't know. Alright, but besides that, there's Cascading Cosmos. This is the one that I believe was shown in the trailer, so if we kind of just get these guys up there and kind of let it play out, you can see it's just a very kind of surreal, kind of space trippy kind of thing, which I think is kind of cool. But yeah, I like this one because it's very versatile. You can use this either for like a wizard kind of experience, or you could use it for a Star Wars kind of experience, which I think is just the bee's knees. Speaking of wizard, though, we can check out our two new entertainers, or rather one, but they do have sexual dimorphism, which I think is very, very funny. It's the sorcerer, it's the wizard, what's his name? Vesper. Vesper is our newest entertainer. I love this. I love how kind of like cheeky it is, because you can see their book is attached from inside of their little cape, I guess. I don't know, like, it's that kind of stuff that I love. The wizard wand actually moves and it lights up, which is very fun. And yeah, that is pretty much it. That's your new entertainer. But what I am very excited for more than anything else are the new pieces. So there are a bunch of new kind of like building sets in here. There's a whole bunch of new building pieces. We'll go through this bit by bit. So we do have these trees. So we do have tree giant. You can basically use these to make your own kind of tree goblin monster, whatever the heck you want to call it. Or you could actually use this to make realistic looking trees, which I think is going to be pretty fun. But yes, these guys are not flexicolor, which is a little bit of a shame, but they are very pretty pieces. So if you guys are hoping to have a little bit more of a fairy world, a little bit more of a magical world, these guys will go hand in hand in making that little bit more of an untamed wild part of that. There are a bunch of new metal pieces, a bunch of new sign pieces. The sorcery lamppost is going to be really good for tiny details. In fact, you can actually scale it quite big or quite small. Yeah, a bunch of new lights. These guys look very cool. This guy's currently upside down, and the one to the left of it is currently on its side. So we're going to just do a little flipperoo right there. So that should be a nice little wall sconce right there. I love the theming of these. These are very pretty. I also love these posts. These are actually very good for kind of like pipe work and stuff like that. That's going to be really fun to work with. You have a bunch of new signs, so you can write whatever you want on here. And you also have a bunch of new chains too, which I think are just like some of the coolest pieces. I love simple pieces kind of like these because it's so much cooler to see what people are able to do with smaller pieces than with the bigger pieces. Of course, the big pieces are great, but I don't know, it's the smaller details that I always go crazy for. We have some shop fascias. These guys are completely flexicolor. We'll go over color options in a bit, but it's just really cool. It's just a very nice, clean looking kind of piece. This one slightly has a little bit of a Western tinge to it, which I think is going to work super well. But beyond that, you also have a bunch of other signs too. I love this one right here. It kind of looks like a gravestone. But you also have these signs, all editable text, so you can put whatever you want. But these guys are a little bit more of those more thematic ones. So yeah, you have a little bit of an alchemy shop one, you have a little bit of a scroll shop one, and you have a book one. I wish we had wands. Like, at that point, I really wish we had wands. Like, come on, just go all the way frontier. 2 new roofing sets, which is very cool. If I type in sorcery, if I can actually spell it right, if we go all the way down here, they do have a whole bunch of different kinds of like pitches and all of that good jazz. 2 different versions. You have a little bit more of a cleaner diamond tile, kind of like looks like a keep, it looks like, which is very cool. But you also have a townhouse, a little bit more of a rundown kind of rustic look, which is very cool. We'll dissect these blueprints in just a little bit too, so you can see them in action. These are my favorites. These are the sorcery rocks, but they are actually a real type of rock formation called basalt. So this is actually going to go super well in making kind of like your nice Nordic, even Icelandic, kind of like, I'm thinking of like Ireland, kind of builds like that. Those are going to go super well for that. I love how kind of rounded they are. They feel so worn out, and it's just so cool. And they are flexi color too. You have this beautiful fence over here. It is very themed towards, again, that Harry Potter aesthetic, but J.K. Rowling doesn't need to make a cent out of this, which is very good. Oh, they even took some of the inspiration from the mold growing in her house. But yeah, it's just a very cool fence over there. Not only that, but you also have a bunch of turrets as well, just to help really set the mood for whatever it is you're building. Again, you can see them in action right over there in just a little bit, but it's very cool to have these pieces. You have these sorcerer sigils over here. These are really good centerpiece pieces, but I love these over here. These are just nice stone stairs. Obviously, we do have stairs when you enter over here. No new paths, by the way. But you do have typical stairs like that. But honestly, if you do want to kind of find your way into using these in place of that, you absolutely can. Just be sure that you're placing them kind of like right above the steps. You're going to need to get a little finicky with this once you're actually placing them down. So just keep that in mind, but it is going to go really good alongside just all of your parks, and it just is such a beautiful, beautiful looking piece. I mean, these kind of rotate on themselves fairly well too, so you can have a nice big plaza. You have these nice, beautiful kind of like cornered off areas, which is gonna go so well. You have the cauldrons right over here. So there's a big one right over there. There's a fire pit. There's a kind of empty cauldron right over here. And you also have your classic kind of like witch cauldron over here, which is very, very fun. I don't know. I just love these pieces, and it's always good to get metal pieces because I'm working on a project right now in this game, and there is such a lack of good metal pieces, and it just makes me very upset. Alright, all of your building decals and kind of like extras. You have a bunch of doors over here. You have these beautiful, beautiful trims. Titanium? That's a fun word. I'm gonna look that up. That is a vertical raised recessed triangular space forming the center of a pediment, typically decorated. So yeah, that's how you learn something today. So that's very cool. So yeah, that I've always seen that kind of like motif in British and like, you know, kind of like that kind of architecture. So it's very cool to see that actually be given a name. You have a bunch of townhouse windows. These guys are super pretty. You have doors. You have more doors. You have even more doors. And guess what? You even have a decal of a door. Very cool. But yeah, very awesome pieces. I love the beautiful, beautiful kind of like keep windows. And it's raining right now. I kind of forgot there was rain in this game. What else? What else? You have the townhouse brick wall plaster. This is the only thing in terms of like this new type of plaster that we got, which is kind of disappointing. But still, it's cool to have at least. I'm not going to complain about more pieces. Again, the new brick set this time around is going to be the brick house town wall. Townhouse brick wall. There we go. Words. Again, flexi color, but we'll check that all out in a little bit. You have a couple extra building motifs over here as well. These are the townhouse gables. Very beautiful pieces over here, especially if you're working on either a British, Irish, or Nordic kind of style build. These guys are going to go hand in hand with that. And you also get a bunch of new wood pieces, which unfortunately don't really have the best flexi-color capabilities, but it's still there, which is very cool. I just wish like these tiny little grooves in here, like if I change it to black, you can see it doesn't really work the best. It's just slightly twinged, you know? So, yeah, that's that. What's next? Crystals and various magic shiz. You can see we do have a couple of gables that go on the top. Ornaments that go on the top. What are they actually called? Spires. Yeah, there you go. But you also have crystal clusters, which are very cool. So they can actually scale relatively small, and they can also be scaled very big. If you're struggling with scale in this game, just pop down a guest and you can actually see how big items are. But yeah, it's a fairly decent size. I would honestly prefer these to go even smaller, but you do have this single crystal over here, which does glow. You can't turn it off though. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the crystals. Actually not, because we also have this claw over here, which kind of holds this one in place, and you also have another over here. This is more of a kind of element that goes on the side of a building. You have an armillary, whatever an armillary is, but you also have a bunch of bottle lamps in here, which is very cool. You have your little love potion over there, and you have a bunch of other ones too. Again, these guys are quite big. I did not expect these items to be so big. I was really hoping that, especially this one, like this is a little bit too big for like, you know, making like a bar or something like that, but it would have been almost so perfect. So yeah, that's my only complaint about that. But we do have candle stands. The fire is flexi color in here, so you can have whatever color you want, but it's just a very nice kind of waxy looking candle. I think that's super fun. All right, we also have these lovely kind of gargoyles. These are really cool to see. You have spiders, frogs, toads, gargoyle, kind of like a griffin. You have cats, which kind of look like a wolf in some positions. You have this griffin over here. You have more spiders, and you have more frogs. Full body frog, actually. Very cool. You have these little sconces right here. Bottle lamp brackets. Oh. So it just fits right in here. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But still, like, I wish we could have scaled those just a bit smaller. But you also have another building set over here. This is the keep stone, which is very nice. I feel like we don't really have anything that looks like this. So yeah, if we actually come over here, we have like this nice clean one. You have a little bit more of a rough brick, which is neat. You have this one, the sandstone, which is very, very messy. Yeah, we got a bunch of them in the latest updates, which is very cool, but we haven't had like a nice organized stone in quite a while, and we finally got those pieces. Yeah, you do have the stone ruin wall, which is kind of close, but honestly, I like a little bit more of a condensed brick over there. That's very good. But yeah, it's kind of like this one, but just a little bit rougher, it looks like, which I'm a big fan of. So yeah, you have those. These guys have been annoying me with their sounds for the longest time. They are the giant spiders. It just looks very tacky, very goofy, but I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of a little bit more silly kind of things in here. You do have your egg sacs though, which is very neat. They are simply oozing right now, which is kind of gross. But yeah, you have this piece, which I don't know, like spider aside, if I just place a bunch of these over here, this just makes me very uncomfortable. And yeah, I just want you guys to feel uncomfortable as well. So yeah, you have a bunch more spider stuff. You have these giant spider webs. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that. You have chimneys, which are very cool. Townhouse pillars, which are very good, very helpful. But you also have the Sorcerer's Keep building set over here. Just a bunch of very big building pieces that are all stone. Whoops. That are all stone, that are all very pretty, and it's just a very clean, slightly worn looking brick look about them all, which is very helpful. Now, in terms of flexi color, we are going to change everything to our basic colors. So I'm going to change fire to red as well as kind of lights, but I'm also going to change green for the base colors. I'm going to change it to blue for the secondary. I'm going to change it to, well, that's a tertiary or whatever. We're going to change it to yellow for whatever the second slot is. And I'm going to change it back to purple for whatever the third slot is. So yeah, not too much purple in here, which is kind of decent. I always like to see more options than not. Oh, hold on. I remember this. I got so excited about like everything when it came to like the wall sets that I completely forgot that there's even more stuff in here. So if we just type in sorcery and we scroll all the way down here, you can see that we do have a couple new animatronics. We have the spellcaster, and we also have the spellcaster. And yeah, they, like, while there are only 3 in here, you do have a bunch of different kind of animation types in here, which is really, really, really awesome. You have some ambient ones, you have a levitate one, which is kind of cool. Just these, like, a whole bunch of different options, and I feel like I should be charged for assault for making her do that. Oh well, that's fine. A sorcery bin right over here. Again, the flexi-color options are very, very good. But yeah, that should pretty much be most of the pieces. You also have this bench. Very nice. So yeah, a bunch of flexi-color options in here. There really aren't too many that are lacking. But yeah, you have a whole bunch of options in here, which is very cool. I don't know. It just works so well. But there are also a bunch of blueprints in here, and honestly, this is where I am very excited for once, because you can do so much with these. So they're all very much inspired by kind of like townhouses of England and stuff like that, but that's on one hand. And on the other hand, you get a little bit more of that high, kind of like architecture style of kind of clean keeps and stuff like that. Very beautiful pieces in here. That does not belong. But you have a bunch of centerpieces as well. You have a little bit more of dark magic in here, where you have a bunch of like lights and a bunch of those little basalt formations. You have this tree man over here. You can see he kind of has his hand around that rock over there, which is fairly cool. But you can see we have a ruined kind of town right here with the spider eggs in there. But you also have your facilities right over here, so you can just attach your shops in here. You can attach a little coffee station in here. You can attach little kind of markets in here and stuff like that. Very cool stuff. But what I am excited for is the fact that once you kind of get rid of some of these uglier pieces, I apologize, Frontier, it's just my personal building style, you know? So yeah, you get rid of a little bit more of that set dressing right there and kind of get rid of that. You have these beautiful, beautiful buildings right underneath that you can kind of just assemble in like a nice small area. I love stuff like that where it's like, I don't know, it's very easy to make something that looks good. Let's just say you kind of enter right through here and then you can kind of go through here. It's just so cool. I don't know. In terms of other stuff, there are a bunch of new kind of pieces. Not pieces, but special effects. You have magic smoke, which is very cool, very ambient. So you have a smaller one, you have a bigger one, and you also have this sorcery bit over here, which is kind of like a little explosion, and you have a little bit more of a wisp one right over here, which is very cool. All these are triggerable, which is cool, and if we actually look for triggerable pieces in here, that's a thing with Planet Coaster, is that there are so many little things in here that we need to be cautious of, like the triggerable pieces. So these are the only ones that are triggerable. None of the lights are at all. The spider isn't. It's always going to be moving, which is a shame. But yeah, that's pretty much it right there. I do love the little bit more of a wispy look about those. I think you can do some really fun stuff with that. Okay, but that is not it. There are a bunch of other things too in this little section over here. So there are new tracks. I'm not going to play them all, but yeah, the sorcery pack comes with a whole bunch of these. Dark magic energy. You have like this little eerie village, ghostly chambers, potions room, rainy forest. Oh, Planet Coaster, please export that and make like a nice little ASMR video with that. Sleepy tree folk. You have Sorcerer's Village. It sounds like a nice bustling area. You have Spell Battle, which is kind of cool. Spider's Lair. Windy Forest. you have a whole bunch of music as well, which is very nice. You have the Sorcerer. I actually have not listened to these at all, but I'm sure they're great. So feel free to check it out in here once you're actually playing with it. So yeah, you have a whole bunch of those in there, but you also have a bunch of sound effects, which I think are going to be really, really fun. If we actually scroll down here to Sorcery, we can actually check out Dark Magic Attack, Magic Spell 1, Magic Spell 2, Magic Spell 3, Magic Spell 4, Magic Spell 5, Potion Smash, Sorcerer Vanish. And yeah, that's all really cool, but not only that, I'm also going to give a shout out to the fairy tale theme as well, because there's a whole bunch in here. There's Boiling Cauldron, Crow, Magic Explosion. You can really, really combine these sets to make something incredible. But with that being said, that is a hefty pack. So I just want to state that even though, I'm just looking for more pieces while we're kind of going throughout here. Even though that Planet Coaster 2 did not get off to the best start, again, we all know that. This, I think, really makes it stand out. Now listen, I wasn't going to show you guys this. I really wasn't. But here I am. I'm going to show you a little sneak peek of something. So yeah, like, I don't know. This pack has really inspired me not only to do something that is just very big, very bombastic, but really dig into this game and make something that I can really be proud of. So yes, obviously the biggest inclusion in this pack is the Intimin Blitz, or the Automax Raid. A lot of people have been asking for this coaster for the longest time, and I can absolutely see why after building with it for just this little bit. Like, it just seems like such a fun coaster that so many people have wanted, so many people are excited for, so many people are going to build some incredible things with it. And with that being said, that is what I'm very excited for about the future of Planet Coaster 2. So is this pack worth it? Is this pack worth your $12, $13 USD? I personally would be comfortable spending that much on this because, well, I'm quite literally an adult who has enough kind of like flexible income where I can say, yeah, I this interests me. But obviously sometimes it might not be in your best interest to do so. So if you are interested in rides like this, if you are interested in really using all of these pieces, I would say it's very much worth it. It has significantly improved my Planet Coaster experience, but don't expect it to do that automatically. You really need to lean into the theme a little bit and lean into these rides to really get the most out of it. But like all other Planet games, these DLCs do go on sale relatively soon. I would say about 6 months to about a year out. It's probably going to be at least 70, maybe even 60% off. No, it's probably going to be inverse, 30 to 40% off. So absolutely do keep your eyes posted on like the Steam store or wherever else you're playing, because this is available on consoles too. Kind of forgot about that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. But I am personally very happy about this pack, but I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Obviously this video has been significantly long. I apologize on that. I'm just very excited about so many of these, and I want to make sure that you guys are able to see so much of this stuff. Ooh, it even had a switch track. I didn't even see that before. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think. Does the Intimin Blitz live up to all of your expectations? Are you guys excited about seeing all these new scenery pieces in action? Do you guys like the new flat rides? I know they're kind of different from what we typically get, but yeah, just let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much again to Frontier for providing me a key and early access to check this pack out. I have been so excited to get back into this game, and you guys finally gave me a reason to, which is just really awesome. So, with that being said, have the most wonderful of wonderful days. We will end it right over here with pretty much all of our coasters operating at once. Have a great one. Take care, and goodbye.